All right. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, and happy 2021. Happy New Year. Um, my thought for you that going into this year is I'm saying to myself that this is the year where I make no promises, right? Because usually that's immediately what we start to do when we go into this new cycles. We start making a lot of promises about what we're going to do or what we're not going to do and what we're going to accomplish and what this year is going to be. And the truth is that we never freaking know, right? We never have any idea, but we put these thoughts out there, of course, with the intention of giving ourselves something to follow, to create a reality that's maybe different than what we had. But maybe, try this with me, is that this year you make no promises. And instead, you just really find a place of commitment in yourself where you show up the best that you can every single day. And if you're not making any promises for what that showing up is supposed to look like, and the commitment is all that matters, then I guarantee that what happens is going to feel more fulfilling. It's going to feel more like you, and it's going to carry you somewhere that maybe you couldn't imagine that you would go, right? So that's my thought for you moving into the new year, is to make no promises. Make no promises, but be committed to showing up the best that you can every day, right? So I was saying yesterday that, the joke almost is that here we are again, right? It's another new year and here we are again, right? You're always just here. And so if we have that awareness that I'm always just here, so the only thing that matters is my commitment to showing up and being here, then everything else gets a little bit softer, because we don't have to hold up so many of those promises. We don't have to hold up so many of those ideas of what things are going to be or should be or shouldn't be. We get to just be here, right? So comfortable seat if you're not there already. I was talking yesterday about that moment of being right here and realizing that the only thing that you've ever had to really deal with is your own ego. That there's literally nothing else in this world that there is to deal with. There's no other problems. There's no other issues. There's nothing except you and your relationship to your own ego. So with the eyes closed, bring your attention to the space of your heart. And in that space of your heart, you can imagine that there's a little flame, a little fire, or a big flame, a big fire, whatever. But that flame is your Jiva Atman. So that's your spark of the divine. That's the soul, seat of the soul, rests at the heart. And then you can imagine that if you were to go step into that flame, step into that energy, that buried in that Jiva Atman, buried deep in that seat of the soul, is a little doorway, maybe a big doorway, any kind of doorway. And on the other side of that doorway is whatever you imagine bliss to be. And standing right in the doorway, there's another version of that Jiva Atman. And that's your ego. And you can look at this as the ego standing in the doorway as the one that's standing in your way. Or you can look at this as the ego being the one that stands and ushers you into your bliss. So that bliss is something that doesn't happen just in meditation or just when you're away from the world, but it's something that is the experience of being right here in the world, day after day. So we say all the time, the ego can be your greatest friend or your greatest enemy. And this is the only relationship spiritually that makes significant difference no matter how you look at it. So your ego stands in the doorway of your bliss. So can you make that relationship one where you're such a good friend with your ego that it ushers that bliss in instead of holds it aside? But it's right there in that flame of the Jiva Atman. They're not opposed to each other. One more breath into the deep place of your heart. And then bring the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. Or hands to your heart. Some of you are doing that, and that's beautiful. Keep them there. We'll open with the sound of Om. Deep breath in. Om. And let the eyes float open. Nice, you guys. You can release your hands from in front of your heart center. Come forward onto hands and knees. We're going to start with cat and cow. So the hands are underneath the shoulders, the knees are underneath the hips. And as you inhale, you're going to stretch your spine long, lifting the chest, tilting your tail up, dropping your belly. And as you exhale, curl and round. Good. Nice, you guys. Good. So start to find the rhythm of your breath with your movement. Inhaling, lifting up nice and long. Exhaling, curling in. And notice a little bit here, just because the suggestion or the question was asked, that your head is actually moving in line with your spine. So sometimes we kind of forget about the head, or we kind of throw it forward and back. So instead, can you move from your rib cage, right? Move from your abdominals, but feel that the neck is this extension of that middle part of your back. So it's not about tilting your chin forward and up. It's about that space at your neck. So literally behind your ears is what's either tilting up or drawing down. Good. Nice, you guys. The ego, the individual consciousness that was completely designed by you, by your soul, created the ego in order to be the coordinator of this lifetime. And so there's nothing in the ego that was built incorrectly, but our relationship with it can go very wonky and usually does. Good. And your next exhale, stay in that rounded position, please. So you're pulling the front rib cage up, you're lifting those hip points up, so you're hollowing the whole abdominal cavity, and then pull the tops of your thighs back, still rounding your back, but pull your thighs back a little more. Good. And now pull your armpits forward a little more. And now lift the back of your throat a little bit more. Your chin is still dropping towards your chest. Good. Still rounded. I know. Nice. Now tuck your toes and lift your hips. Come into downward facing dog, still rounding through your middle back so that you actually pull up through your rib cage. Good. And then bring the tops of the thighs back. You're still trying to keep those ribs drawing in. Good. Pull your armpits forward. Lift the back of your throat. Bless you. Good. And now extend the top of your head towards your thumbs and let your heels soften towards the floor. Nice, you guys. Yeah, downward facing dog should feel like a journey. Right foot steps forward between the hands, lunge. Good. Drop the back knee, please. Inhale, both arms to the sky, Anjaneyasana. You can use a blanket underneath the back knee if you need. Good. Nice, you guys. Take your right hand to the outside of your right knee for a moment. Yep. And then push that knee wide. Yeah. And as you're pushing that knee wide, keep your big toe anchored to the floor, but feel like you're pushing your right sit bone wide as well. Good. So there's that pressure, pushing your hand against your knee and your knee against your hand. Good. And then maintain that, drag back on that front heel so your pelvis moves forward a little more, and then take both arms back up to the sky. So super engaged legs. Good. Nice, you guys. Release the hands down to the floor. Good. Both hands inside the front foot. Walk to the upper left-hand corner of your mat. Good. Separate your hands a little wider. Come up on your fingertips. Good. So you should have space. I want your hands really much wider than you would normally take them. So take them wider. Let your elbows bend. And then you're going to do just little sort of push-ups here. So as you exhale, you're dropping your chest towards the floor, elbows wide. And then inhaling, letting yourself rise up. Good. Make sure your hands are nice and wide here, you guys, so that you have a lot of space for your shoulders and your chest to open. So hands can come off the mat. Good. And don't make it work in your legs, right? Don't make it work if I've got to really push through my arms as you're moving with your breath. Good. Right? The ego is completely about recognizing our relationship with limitations. And looking at limitations not as something that stops you from being who you are, but that gives you reference to understand who you are. Good, you guys. Moving with your breath. Nice. Come to stillness. If you want to drop down onto your forearms inside that front foot, you can. Otherwise, stay on your fingertips and just let yourself drop into the pelvis. Let yourself drop into the space behind your heart. Good. The ego is a funny thing. And there's a story that we tell in yoga, a little metaphor that we tell about how the ego gets stuck in its story about who it's supposed to be. And the story goes that there is a traveler who's, walking through countryside, comes across a person who is down on the ground. They've been shot with an arrow and they're bleeding. So the person runs up to them and they're like, oh my gosh, like, let me help you. Like, what can I do? You must be in so much pain. Let me take the arrow out. And the man who's been injured says, no, before you take the arrow out, I must know, what kind of wood was the arrow made of? How far away was the person who shot me? What kind of bow were they using? Was the arrow poisoned? Who fletched the arrow? Who created this? Who is the person who shot me? What is their family? What is their background? What is their history? And the man who's trying to help him is like, I don't know. Can I just take the arrow out? So this is the metaphor, right? Is that if we get caught in that spiral of the story of who we're supposed to be because of what's happened. I know you're there a long time, relax. What would happen if you just let yourself take the arrow out? Walk yourself back up, please. Good, move your left hip back in space. Take your right leg forward to straight. It'll feel amazing now. Come up on your heel. Ardha Hanumanasana. Good, so it looks like sort of a runner's stretch or half split, we call it. Use blocks underneath the hands if you'd like. Flex that right foot a lot. Dig down through the heel and drag back. So you're really pulling from the top of your thigh up and back. And then as you lean forward, the pelvis tilts. Nice, and that's what creates a stretch through the whole leg. And then can you feel here too? Maybe you can even take your right arm a little closer in towards your right shin or your right thigh and push wide. Good, so just add a little pressure of that leg into your hand. So you're not leaning towards that side, but you're pushing wide. Nice, you guys. Flex that foot a lot. Awesome, I know. Intense poses. So part of this, right, is my point is your relationship with pain has a lot to do with how you associate with your ego, right? The story of your life. Is it defined by the pain that you've been through? Or are you defining it by the joy? Or are you defining it at all? Your relationship with yourself and how you experience this world. This is what it means, your commitment to show up every day. You're showing up for what? To keep telling your story or to watch your story unfold? Good, walk yourself back up, please. Bend that right knee, come back to lunge, lift the back knee off of the floor. Yep, squeeze the feet towards each other, inhale the arms up to the sky, high lunge. So same foot as forward, you're just coming into a higher lunge. Good, Emily, watch that your feet are a little too long, so your front knee can't quite come over your ankle, so shorten your stance a tiny bit. Good, and then take your arms out wide, letter T, please. Twist to your right, so you're turning towards that front leg. Good, widen your inner knee. Good, and then widen your back thigh as well. Good, Lynn. Nice, Harriet. Lean forward, stretching through that left arm as long as you can. Lean forward, pull forward. Good, Laura. Good, and then let that hand touch down to the floor, right arm to the sky. Spinal twist. Good, Marjorie. Nice, Melody. Nice, Debbie. Take that right arm over the ear, please, reaching towards the top of your mat. Good, and pull your hips back in space. Pull them back. Good, Andrea. There you go. You got it, Lydia. Nice, you guys. Release that right hand down to the floor, please. Good. Step your left foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight, Parsvottanasana. Good. Your feet should be as wide here as your hips, right and left. So make sure that you're not standing on a tightrope. Good. And then again, you're pushing into your feet. You're pulling the tops of your thighs way up and back. Nice, you guys. If you could take your whole story of your life and take everything that was good and bad and indifferent and throw it all together into one big mix that was so messed up that you couldn't distinguish one moment from another, right? Like mixing colors together. What you have in that undifferentiated state is what we call enlightenment. So everything that you've been through, again, your whole story is you don't throw any of it out. You stop living it as though it defines who you're meant to be. Good. Nice, you guys. Bend that right knee, please. Step your left foot forward, top of your mat. Take both legs to straight and bow, forward fold. Good. Bend your knees. Drop your sit bones like you're coming into chair. Good. Keep your fingertips on the floor for a moment. Good. Push your inner knees wide and anchor through the big toe mounds of your feet. And now scoop your low belly, and from the middle of your rib cage, start to rise up into chair. So pull up through the center of your back. Really good, Perry. Nice, Susan. Good, Sue. Nice, Heidi. Awesome, you guys. Squeeze your arms towards each other, just like you're squeezing your knees. Beautiful. And then hands to the floor, take your legs to straight and bow. I hope you feel your legs tomorrow. I think you probably will. Step your right leg back behind you, please. Drop that knee down to the floor. Anjaneyasana. Inhale the arms up to the sky. Good. So when you step that right leg back, if you didn't step back far enough for you to feel that stretch at the front of your thigh, adjust. So you guys move that right leg back a little bit more. There you go. So when you come forward into the lunge, the back knee is more, or the back leg is more straight than it is bent. That's perfect. Good. Left hand to outer left knee, please. Mark, you got to widen your lunge a little bit or lengthen it. There you go. Push that knee wide into your hand. Push your left butt cheek wide, inner thigh wide, and then big toe mound roots down. Good. And then squeeze back on that right heel. So you traction back. Sorry, left heel drags back. And then both arms come back to the sky. Good. So as your legs get stronger, your chest lifts more. Nice. And drop the shoulders away from the ears, but lift through the top of your head. Good. And then release the hands down to the floor. Both hands come inside the front foot. Walk to the upper right-hand corner of your mat. Come up onto your fingertips and give yourself a lot of space. So nice wide arms. Good. And then again, moving with your breath on the exhale, bending the elbows, letting the chest drop towards the floor. And inhaling, feeling yourself rise up. So it's not a push-up that is about the effort of your arms. It's about dropping your chest open and feeling the lift of the back of your ribs. It's really more about your back, and it's more about how much your pelvis is willing to let your spine release towards the floor. Good.
I definitely feel this in my ribs.
Feel it, yeah. Yeah, that's the idea, right? Is for you guys to feel this in that middle space of your ribs. So we talk about the heart chakra, and we almost always go to the front of the heart. We don't think about the back of the heart. We don't think about how stuck we are in the back of our body and what we're holding that really creates limitation, right? Because it's not your ego that's doing that. It's your habits that's doing that. Good. Come to stillness, please. Drop down to your forearms inside that front knee. If you'd like, you can use blocks underneath the elbows or stay up on fingertips. Breathe. Bless you. Nice, you guys. It's another fun story illustrating the ego at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. So one of the characters in the Bhagavad Gita, if you don't know the story, of course, it's the story of our spiritual self versus our mental out of control self. All right, that's the metaphor. But it's really that, that quintessential, the good guys versus the bad guys. But one of the characters, right, is the good guy's uncle, great uncle. And he's meant to represent the ego. And guess who he fights for? He fights for the bad guys. But at the end of the battle, right, and they know this going in, that one of the gifts of his life is that he cannot be killed. So there's no one who can kill this guy, right? So the end of the battle comes and, the good guys win and they're walking through the devastation and they find their great uncle lying on the ground covered like a pincushion is usually how he's shown, just full of arrows, but still alive, still kicking. And so there in that, experience where he really should be dead, he insists on talking to his nephews and telling them this whole spiritual dissertation. He tells them the truth about everything. And then finally says, all right, I guess I'm done, and dies, right? And the moral of that story is, of course, is that the ego cannot be destroyed. No matter how much you practice, you cannot destroy it. It can only go willingly. So if you want your ego to be in line with who you think you are or who you think you should be, maybe drop that story because that's still the ego talking, who you think you should be. And instead become friends with that part of you that is orchestrating your day to day, that's helping you understand bliss day to day. Walk yourself back in. I tell you stories and poses like this to distract you. You know that. Lift, move that right hip back in space so it's on top of your right knee, and then take your left leg forward to straight. Ardha Hanumanasana. So back knee stays on the floor. Come up on the heel, flex the foot. Remember, I said in the beginning of class, right, that the only thing that matters is your commitment for showing up here. So these poses are not easy poses, right? Mostly because they challenge what our everyday habits are that are very restricting and limiting. The way that we sit, the way that we haven't been moving, the way that we have been moving that might be, you know, very strange from what we're used to. Your hamstrings are tight if your back is tight. Look at your habits. Look at the way that you sit and sleep and stand. And then make no promises that you are somehow going to be a different person, but maybe commit to showing up and paying attention to yourself in a different way. Good. Dig down and back with that heel so you're pulling the top of the thigh back and long. And then maybe that left hand can be on the outside of your left leg, anywhere that it can touch. And you can push that thigh or that shin out wide against the hand. So you're not letting your toes curl open or in. Maybe they curl in, but you want to push wide, completely straight wide. Good. Nice, you guys. One more breath. Relax that space at the back of your heart. Good, Linda. And then walk yourself back up, please. Good. Come back to lunge. So drag that left heel back and in, and then lift your back knee up off of the floor. Good. Make sure your front knee is over the front ankle, and then inhale both arms up to the sky. High lunge. Nice, Meredith. Good. Pam, your lunge looks like it's a little long. Maybe shorten it a tiny bit. There you go. Good, you guys. And then take your arms out wide, letter T, twist to your left, please. So towards the front thigh, your other left. There you go. Good, you guys. Push your left knee wide so it's not falling in with you. And then lean forward like you're reaching for a twisting triangle. Extend, extend, extend. Kick your back thigh higher. Good, Linda. Good, Perry. And then let that right hand touch down, left arm to the sky. Spinal twist. Nice, Mia. Good. Throat back. And then take that left arm over the ear, please, reaching towards the top of your mat, and then pull your hips back. So pull your left butt cheek and your left hip back and down away from your armpit. Good. So the reaching over the ear becomes much more effective when you also pull back on your pelvis. Good. And then release that hand down to the floor. Nice job. Step your right foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight, Parsvottanasana. Good. So the right foot steps forward just enough for the legs to come to straight with the heels flat. Use blocks underneath the hands if you need. You guys are doing great over there. Good. And you're pressing into your feet. The more you press into your legs, the more this becomes a stretch of the legs and not a yanking on the legs. Good. And I know for myself, this is usually the moment where I'm like, this is why commitment is hard, because commitment is this. It's sustaining pressing into your feet. It's sustaining pulling up through your hips so that you're creating stretch, but you're not just trying to force the body to feel different. Right? When we say when something is internally motivated, right, you can sustain it. But our problem is that we're so used to being externally motivated that the internal motivation feels like so much work. So you commit to showing up. Press into your feet. That's all you have to do. Just don't give up on pressing into your feet. Good. And then your relationship to what happens inside, the thoughts, the feelings. The ego is trying to show you the way to the bliss. So don't look at those things as obstacles. Look at them as guideposts. Good. Bend that left knee, please. Step the right foot forward, top of your mat. Take both legs to straight. Good. Bend your knees, dropping your seat towards chair again. Keep your fingertips on the floor. Or better yet, take your hands to your outer knees and press your hands into your knees. Push your knees wide into your hands. Good. And then scoop your low belly so your hip points lift up off of your thighs. And from the back of your rib cage, middle rib cage, come up into chair. Take the arms up alongside your ears. And then pull the tops of your thighs back and down. Good. Nice, Lydia. Hips back a little bit more, Lydia. There you go. Good. And then come all the way up to stand. Really nice, you guys. Beautiful. Hug your right knee up and towards your chest. Squeeze it in. Good. Cross that thigh over the left, wrapping the inner thigh and the outer shin for eagle. Bend your left knee. So it's like you're coming into a crossed sort of chair position. So you guys cross your thigh all the way over. Good. So you can sort of look to see what Dana's doing over here. Yeah, all the way over. There you go. And then you got to bend your left knee a lot. Good. Left arm comes over top of right in front of your chest. Wrap the forearms same way that you are wrapping the legs. And the elbows come on top of each other. Squeeze the forearms and then drop low. Good. Laura, lift that right hip a little higher. Good, you guys. Now ready? Don't change the arms. Start to curl a little bit, round, elbows towards your knees, and then pull up through your back rib cage, unwind that top leg and stretch your right leg back behind you to warrior three. As that leg extends back behind you, you're straightening your standing thigh. You got it. So right leg is lifted in line with the floor. Arms are still wrapped, squeezing. Lift up through the back of your ribs. Really nice, Alice. Good, Harriet. Awesome, you guys. Step back to high lunge, please. Back foot finds the floor. Keep the arms wrapped. I know. You just can't let them go. Lift your elbows a little higher. Inhale. Good. And now unwind the arms. Take the arms to the sky. Take a deep breath in, like it's the first real breath you've ever taken. And then release your hands to the floor. Downward facing dog. OMFG, right? Deep breath in. Slide forward to plank. Lower down slow. Rise up cobra. From your belly, lift up head, neck, and chest. And then release, press back child's pose. If you want to come through down dog first, you're welcome to, or just take the knees wide, hips back to your heels. Contemplate the meaning of your existence. It is one of my funny thoughts that comes into my mind a lot, and it's been coming in a lot lately, right? Day after day, wondering, what am I doing? What am I even doing? All day, every day, what am I doing? Where do I think it's going? What do I think it's going to end up as? So we start to contemplate what questions arise in us that matter and which ones don't, right? Like the story of the man with the arrow, does it matter? The history of the pain that's come before, does it matter? Or can you, in this moment, figure out the way to pull the arrow out? Does it matter that certain things stay the same? Or can you just show up committed to doing the absolute best you can with what's in front of you? A year where you make no promises, but you commit to showing up completely. Walk yourself back up to hands and knees, downward facing dog. I know we have to do that whole stupid series on the other side. Sorry. Look forward between the hands, step or jump your feet to the top of your mat. Sorry, not sorry. Not at all sorry. Good. Press through your feet, please. Hands to your hips. Come all the way up to stand. Root through your legs. Good. And then ready. Left knee comes up and towards your chest. Squeeze it in. Good. Cross the left thigh over top of the right, wrapping the inner thigh and the outer shin for eagle. Bend the right knee. You're dropping your hips towards that chair pose. Watch that your left hip doesn't swivel forward. Pull it back. Good. And then right arm comes over top of left in front of your chest. Wrap the arms. And you're sinking low. The leg that matters the most in this pose is your right one, the standing one. That's the one that has to actually engage and soften. Good. I know. Stay with your breath, please. And this is a lengthening of your spine as your hips draw down, your heart lifts up. Good. Start to bring the elbows forward, round into your back. So you get that sensation of pulling up through the back of your rib cage. Yeah. And then as you're rounded, unwind that top leg, take your left leg back behind you, keep your chest reaching parallel to the floor and extend out through that leg. So flex the foot, strong, strong, strong. The more you engage those muscles and your ribs are lifting and your chest is lifting. So everything is 100% reaching forward and back, up and down. Nice. Step back to high lunge. Don't change the arms. Arms still an eagle. Good. Inhale, lift your elbows a little higher. Feel the space at the back of your heart. You got it. And then unwind the arms. Inhale the arms up to the sky. Full deep breath. Nice, Lori. That's beautiful. And then release the hands down to the floor. Good. Step back to downward facing dog. Slide forward to plank. Lower down to your belly. Rise up, cobra, lifting head, neck, and chest. And come back downward facing dog. I just looked at the time and I'm amazed at how little time has gone by. Right leg comes up and back behind you, down dog split. Good. Bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, stack the right hip on top of the left, open inner thigh. Good. And as you open that inner thigh, squeeze your left heel in towards the midline of your mat. Nice. Good. And then point that right knee down to the floor, please. Extend the leg straight back behind you. Good. But squeeze that thigh forward and in like you're pulling it into the front of your pelvis, and then come up on your left fingertips and maybe float that left hand up off the floor. Balance. You got to squeeze your right hand and your left ankle towards each other. You got to squeeze everything in towards the center. Nice, Sandra. Good, Diane. You got it, Linda. Nice, Lauren. And then release the hand, release the foot, downward facing dog. Drop down to your knees. Cat cow your spine. So that you learn to rest in your breath, not to rest and escape. And I know child's pose isn't always that, but that's often what we use it for, is I just need to get out of whatever I was doing. I need to get away for a second. Refuge, right? The yoga equivalent of hiding in the closet. Or when you or when you go to the bathroom just to hide from your child. No one else does that? Good. Come back to stillness, please. Drop back to child's pose. Maybe that's the one promise I'll make to myself, is don't hide from my child. No, but learning to rest in your breath and learning to rest in the inner space of where the Jiva Atman and the ego are connected to each other, not opposed. There's a feeling where your soul and the ego are really a team, and they are. It's really what we're taught in the subtle teachings of yoga, is that your ego is not your enemy. But if you go through your life thinking that it is and trying to destroy it, trying to turn it into something that it isn't because you're sure that this is what it's supposed to be and it'll make you happier, then we're all that guy lying on the ground with an arrow stuck in us saying, no, I can't possibly let this heal. I can't possibly just let myself be who I am, and rejoice in that. So maybe make fewer promises about who you're going to be and start asking the questions and looking at yourself and saying, maybe this is who I am. Walk yourself back up to hands and knees, come back to downward facing dog. And maybe what my ego has been trying to do with all of these crazy habits and thoughts and desires is to actually point me in the direction of really comprehending who I am. So my joy comes from that, instead of looking for it somewhere else, that I have to change in order to be happy. I have to change in order to be free. Things will change. Things will change as you start to understand who you are at a deeper level. Left leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt, stack the left hip on top of the right. We say like a dog peeing, well, I say, I don't know if anyone else does, like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant, open, up, 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 and squeeze that heel in. Good. And you got to really pull your arms up into your shoulders as well. So it's like you're squeezing your hands and your feet towards each other. Power up your back. Good. And then straighten that leg, point the knee down towards the floor. So you're back in down dog split. Feel that thigh like it's pulling forward up and into your pelvis. And then come up on your right fingertip. So the opposite hand is the lifted leg. And then the option here is to start to take that right hand off of the floor. Good. Maybe you just stay on fingertips and play with finding your balance through your ribs and through your pelvis. Good. Nice, you guys. Nice, Harriet. And then release the hand, please. Release the leg down to the floor, downward facing dog. Deep breath in. Good. And then drop the knees to the floor, please. Cat and cow. Ego stands at the doorway to your bliss. And don't worry if you have no idea what bliss means. I don't know either. We can't know until we feel it. I imagine as it's described is that it's that feeling of everythingness being exactly what it should be. And that things being exactly as it should be is completely outside of your control or your thinking. So it's like if you could take all of the emotions of your life that you've experienced and imagine them as paint and you swirl them all together so they become just one piece. We call that bliss. And it includes your anger and your fear and your sadness and your rage and your frustration and your doubt and your everything else. It's all in there. Come back to stillness, knees wide, drop your hips back to your heels, child's pose. Maybe make a pillow with your hands, but let your elbows go wide for a moment. Or reaching the hands back towards the ankles if the shoulders are feeling fatigued. The one who stands at the doorway of your bliss is not your enemy. But it is the one that demands that you understand what bliss is so that you can feel it on a day-to-day basis, that you don't keep pushing it aside because something bad happened or because you were disappointed or because someone told you that you were supposed to be different than you are. The ego is your greatest ally. Become friends with it. Because it's the only thing that can and will 100% unlock your spiritual experiences with the fullness of that spiritual self. Walk yourself back up, please. Good. Come to sit on your butt, stretch your legs out in front of you. You're welcome. A little sitting on your butt feels pretty good. Good. Right leg stays extended out in front of you. Bend your left knee, bring the bottom of the foot to the inside of your right thigh and let your left knee drop open. Janu Shirshasana. Good. Make sure your right toes are facing straight up and down so they're not falling out or in. Inhale the arms up to the sky. Little twist to your right and then bow over the right thigh. Good. And remembering you are digging down through that right heel and dragging through the whole length of your legs to the top of your right thigh and butt cheek pulls back to create that stretch. Nice, Pam. Just keep your foot awake. Good, Heidi. Good, you guys. You understand the ego. You would have no desire to get rid of it. And if we've trained our ego, which all of us have through the experiences of our life, to be a energy that feels restrictive or that feels judgmental, it's only because that's the habit. Limitation is not what prevents you from understanding or feeling your spiritual self. It's what helps you to even comprehend what a spiritual self is. So you can live it day after day. You can commit to showing up as that. And the rest of the stuff, it's just habits. It's just all those questions. Who was responsible for this? Who was the one? How did this happen? Does it matter? It doesn't matter more than what it takes for you to show up and really embrace who you are. Walk yourself all the way back up, please. Take your left hand back behind your left hip. Good. You're going to press into your left shin. Lift your butt up off the floor. Right foot finds the floor. So hips come up. Stretch that right arm up and over the ear so that you're coming into a little stretchy back bend variation. Good. So Jennifer, just keep your right leg straight. There you go. Yep. So you're reaching through your fingertips all the way down to your heel and opening the heart towards the sky. So rotate, open, open, open. You got it. Nice, you guys. Deep breath in. Good. And then release all the way back down to your seat, please. Nice job. And then switch the legs. Take your left leg forward in front of you. Bend the right knee. Bring the bottom of the foot to the inside of the left leg. Let your knee go wide. Inhale the arms up to the sky. And then you're twisting your ribs just a little bit towards the left and bowing over that straight leg. Keep your foot flexed so you're curling your toes back. Nice. I completely recognize how even just saying the phrase, right, embrace who you really are, doesn't make any sense, right? Because if we really knew, then we wouldn't have any problems embracing. And all the things that we completely resist embracing, right, for all of the reasons that we resist, are completely valid. So it's not to disregard the parts of you or the habits or the things that you would still like to see adjust. But it's to embrace the knowledge that here you are. You're not tomorrow or next week or next year or next century. You're here. And here is not such a bad place because here is where you can actually be at the center of how your life is flowing. So it's here that you can drop a habit or change it. It's here that you can shift yourself in the direction of love or whatever you're looking for. And then all of those things that you are seeking in yourself are not mutually exclusive to the things that you feel are standing in the way. The ego has the ability to redefine your reality over and over again, and it does. Maybe you want that ability to be on your side instead of happening without your awareness. Walk yourself back up, please. Take your right hand back behind your right hip. Good. Press up onto that right shin, please. Lift your butt up off the floor. Stretch your left arm up over the ear so you're coming into that long stretch on the other side. So lift your butt as high as it will go. There you go. And then open your ribs, open towards the sky. So you're reaching long, but then you're also opening. So fall back towards your left leg. Fall back towards your left side of your ribs. Good. Like you're going to come into a back bend. Open, open, open. That's it. Nice, you guys. And then come all the way back down to your seat, please. Awesome. Bring the bottoms of the feet together, knees wide. Good. Stretch your arms up towards the sky. Press down into your feet, press down into your groins, into your sit bones, and then lean forward. Arms stay alongside your ears. Extend, extend, extend. Push back through your seat as you pull forward. And then push through the crown of your head. And from your lower tips of your armpits and your shoulder blades, drag down towards your hips. Nice. And then can you feel that lift from your middle ribs again? Pull back, almost like you're coming up into chair. You remember that feeling, right? Lift your torso like you're coming up into chair. Wah. Nice. And then release the hands down to the floor. I make the sound effect for you because if your body could, that's what it would sound like. Wah. Sort of like a duck. Relax into your forward fold, please. Contemplate the meaning of your existence in a humorous way. Because it is one of the greatest jokes, right? That the ego thinks that it can define what the meaning of your existence is. It's ridiculous. You cannot define it, but the ego is the way that we can experience the meaning of who and what you are, the beingness of who and what you are on a day-to-day basis. Can you look at your ego as that, the guideposts that show you the way to bliss? Walk yourself back up, please. Good. Cross the ankles, roll forward to hands and knees, come back to downward facing dog. I know. There's a deep sigh that happened over here.
That was exhalation.
Oh, apparently it was just an exhalation. It sounded like a deep sigh. Right leg comes up and back behind you, down dog split. Good. Bring that knee forward and wide for pigeon. So right knee comes towards your right wrist. Slide the left leg back. Good. Making sure that your front foot stays really awake. So you're flexing the foot. Good. Outer left hip spins forward. Yeah. And then walk yourself forward onto your forearms, please. Just for a breath or two, can you walk yourself towards the upper right-hand corner of your mat? So you breathe into your left side ribs a little more. Left side outer hip a little more. Good. And if you're doing pigeon on your back, to simulate that, if you want to bring your left foot down to the floor and then drop your hips over to your left. So your right foot is going to be flat on the floor. Good. And then as you press into that foot, you're moving that knee up towards the ceiling. So you get more openness on that outer hip. Good. Then if you're pigeon in the traditional way, walk back to center and then move yourself to the upper left-hand corner of your mat. Breathe that way. Good. If you've reached the point where you're just ignoring whatever I say, that's good too. It happens. Self-realization. That is the end goal of yoga. That's how it's often described. It's not enlightenment. We don't say that's what we're looking for. Not usually. Something that happens, but self-realization. Realization that yourself, capital S, is connected to yourself, little s, your ego. Come back to center, please, in your pigeon pose and relax, center. So just not leaning to either side. Good. Take one more breath. And then walk your hands back in, please. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee. Good. Take your right leg up and back to down dog split. We're not going straight into pigeon on the other side. So if you're on your back, you might want to come up and join us or stay where you are. If you don't feel like joining us, don't. Release that right foot down to the floor, please. And then bring the feet together, slide forward to plank pose. Inner thighs and feet squeezing together. Vasisthasana, roll onto the baby toe of your right foot, stack the left leg on top, left arm comes to the sky. So side plank, pull those hips up, pull those ribs up. Good. Nice, you guys. And then either here, you can step your left foot to the inside of your right thigh like you're doing tree pose, or you can go ahead and reach that left knee in towards your chest, reach for your foot and extend that left leg up to the sky. Padangusthasana. Or just stay where you are. I like that variation too. That was good. Nice, Alice. Nice, Emily. Pull those hips up. Hips up, Emily. Yes. And then go ahead, release the foot. Nice, Andra. Good variation. Back to downward facing dog, please. Oh. Deep breath in. Deeper breath out. Good. And then left leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Bring the knee forward and wide, pigeon pose, second side. Let your mind compare this pose to Vasisthasana. Decide which one you like better. Right hip spins forward, left hip spins back. And then find yourself walking forward onto your forearms or fingertips. But before you get completely comfortable, walk to the upper left-hand corner of your mat. Breathe through your right side ribs. And again, if you're doing pigeon on your back, you can take that right foot down to the floor, drop your hips over towards the right side. So your left foot will be on the floor. And as you draw that knee up towards the ceiling and you relax the left side of your low back and ribs towards the floor, as you'll get more of that decompression in your hip joint. So it doesn't matter for you that are those of you who are in pigeon on your front. Only talking to people on their backs. Good. If you are doing pigeon on your front, walk yourself back to center, please, and then move yourself towards the upper right-hand corner of your mat. Breathe in that direction. Right? The commitment to find the places that feel tender, uncomfortable, difficult. And instead of writing a whole story about why it's happened and why you should stay in pain or why you should still be upset about it, instead of that, can you commit to pulling the arrow out? And whatever floods out of you, it might be a lot of accumulated pain. It might be a lot of accumulated emotion, a lot of accumulated stress. But in the wake of that, there will be also a realization of what's been underneath it, what you've really been looking for through all those stories, what you were really trying to create through all of those habits. They say when you start listening to the voice of your heart, your mind makes more sense. Your mind will start to follow the heart. So commit to showing up. That's heart energy. Walk yourself back towards center, please, if you're pigeon on your belly, and just stay. Right? The mind tries to define things, but the heart just feels the experience of living, being. So commit to that. Make no promises about how it's going to be. And the stories that hold you back, your ego has the ability to maintain them forever or to scrap them and throw them away. Not required. Your ego is your way back to bliss. Become friends with it. Good. Walk yourself back up, please. Nice. Tuck your back toes, lift the back knee, take your left leg up and back down, dog split. Good. That's to release any kind of, compression that happened in the hip. So you take it back to a nice neutral place. Good. And then release that foot down to the floor, downward facing dog. Take your feet together, inner thighs together, and then come forward to plank pose, armpits over your wrist. Good. You guys, throw it up, Jennifer. Throw it up. You got it. Vasisthasana. Roll onto the baby toe edge of your left foot, please. Left arm holds you, right arm to the sky. Make sure that you're bringing your armpit forward, forward, forward. It's actually harder if you let your armpit hang back. Pull your hips up. Good. And then right foot can either step to the inside of the thigh for tree, or you can go ahead and pull the knee in, reach for your foot and stretch the leg up, or you can step the foot back behind you because some of you are going for that variation anyway. That works. Good. Nice, Diane. Throat back. Good, Heidi. Nice, Debbie. Good. Nice, Mia. And then slowly release, please. Come back to downward facing dog. Beautiful. Look forward between your hands. Step yourself or jump yourself forward to squat. Wow. Knees wide. Good. If squat's not in your vocabulary, then you're sitting in Baddha Konasana. Good. Lift your chest up and open. Drop your seat. Drop your mind back to the place of your heart, wherever that flame lives and where that door lives. The only thing that holds you back from experiencing bliss is your ego's ability to recognize it, or your willingness to recognize it through your ego and not opposed to your ego. Deep breath in. And then bring the butt to the floor gracefully. Come on down to sit. Good. Stretch your right leg out wide to the right. Bring the bottom, bring your left heel or your left foot towards the inside groin. So it might touch the inside right thigh. It might not, depending on length of your legs and such. But you're bringing the left heel in, right leg extended out wide. Good. And then turn your belly to the right. Walk over that right thigh, forward fold. And watch again that your toes are not falling in or out. So parry all the way over the extended leg. Yep. And I think already, Perry, you're on the opposite leg as everybody else. So switch your legs. There you go. Nice, you guys. Turning from that low place of your torso where your ribs meet your hips. Good. And then walk yourself back up, please. Bring your right hand to your outer left knee. Yep. Take your left arm up alongside your ear and then lean over that right thigh. So reaching, side body stretch. Extend, extend, extend. Heart opens. Good. Lean your weight back just a little bit, Sarah. Lean back just a little bit, Alice, so that you're bringing your ribs more in line with your thigh. That's it. Good, you guys. And then come all the way back up to center. Beautiful. And then switch the legs. Take your left leg out wide. Bring your right heel in. Do you usually work this hard in your practice? No. Me either. Good. Turn to your left, please. Towards that left leg and walk yourself forward. That's the thing, right? Commitment. Show up with the best of you. And we say, I show up with enough of me, I think. I show up with good enough. So make no promises, but maybe commit to showing up with all of you. Because sometimes the work is hard. And sometimes it's only hard because we think it's hard. Right? So can you luxuriate in the fact that your body could do this class? It's not an easy class. I know, I'm instructing it. I'm right there with you in my mind. I know what this feels like. Sometimes the work is hard. And sometimes it's only hard because we think it's hard. So what could you do with your life if you stopped thinking that so many things were too hard for you, too far away from you? Impossible for you because of X, Y, and Z. The arrow is still stuck in there. And I don't know who shot it or what their middle name is, et cetera, et cetera. Walk yourself back up, please. Bring your left hand to your outer right knee. Good. Right arm to the sky. So you're using that hand at the knee. You're turning your ribs just a little bit to the right and then dropping your left butt cheek. And then lean over that left leg. So you're extending through that whole side body. Press your right butt cheek down to the floor. Good. And let your weight fall slightly back. So your rib cage moves back almost in line with that thigh. Nice, Marjorie. Extend out through those fingers. Good. And drop your chin towards your chest just a little bit so your neck is more neutral. There you go. Awesome. Nice, Debbie. Nice, Lynn. And then come all the way back up to center, please. Beautiful. Good. Come forward onto your back. Bend your knees. Roll down. Don't collapse. Good.
What?
Bring the knees up towards your chest, please. Squeeze in. And then take your knees wide and reach for your ankles or your feet. Happy baby. Ananda Balasana. Balasana is baby pose or child's pose. Ananda is the word for bliss. It's actually blissful baby. You are never far from your bliss. But we misinterpret, we miscomprehend what it is, and so we don't see it. It's around us all the time, but we don't connect with it because it can't possibly be this. Can't possibly be me. Not the way I am. More resolutions, more promises, more change. You will change as you understand the way for that bliss to flow through you. But it's not the other way around. Bring the knees in towards your chest, please. Take the right thigh over top of the left, stacking the knees. Separate your feet. Reach for your ankles or your shins. Good. Flex the feet, please. Yeah, so knee all the way on top of knee. You got it. Yep, all the way on top.
Is it right over?
I said right over left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. And then you're separating the feet so it's like you're moving everything wide through your lower back. Good, you guys. Release and switch, please. Take the other leg on top. Knees in towards your chest. Good. Andrew, drop your feet a little bit more. Yeah, so they're a little bit more just like in line with your hips. There you go. Good. Then unwind the legs, hug your knees in towards your chest, bring your forehead up to meet your knees, roll forward and back on your spine. Good. Let yourself come up to balance on your sit bones for a moment, little boat pose. Good. Lift through your middle ribs like you're in chair. So you got to come up more, Emily. Yep. You got to lean forward towards the front edge of your sit bones more, Emily. And now draw your throat back, but bring your chest up. Good. Hold behind the thighs, roll forward and back again. I know it seems really unfair that all of you were holding boat while I was talking to one person. I was talking to all of you. I just called you all Emily. Good. Come up to balance on your sit bones. Good. Like you're reaching through your spine in chair. Pull up. Yeah, not pulling up because it's just your abdominals. It's pulling through your back. Make this pose about your back. Nice, Melody. Nice, Marjorie. Good. And then roll forward and back one more time. I know. It is work on your abdominals, but it doesn't have to be just work on your abdominals. Just in case you too have been eating too many cookies at 2 a.m. Come up and balance. One more boat pose.
I'm so tempted to put my feet on the wall.
Don't put your feet on the wall, Dana. That's cheating. Good. Lift like you're in chair. Pull up through your ribs, through your spine. Nice. And then slowly release all the way back. Oh, hug your knees in, roll from side to side in a relaxing way, not in a complicated way. And then drop your feet to the floor, please. Knees bent. Just rest there for a moment. If you want to bring your arms overhead and hold opposite elbows, you can. Or just stay where you are. My last story for you about the ego is about the sage Visvamitra. His story is that he becomes a sage. Mostly he was born a king or born in to become king, but he becomes a sage mostly because he's pissed at Vasishta, another sage. He's pissed at him. So he decides that he's going to become an even greater sage than this guy who irritates him. And so he sets out and does this very rigorous, very strong practice and runs into so many roadblocks and so many mistakes and so many things that go wrong. But eventually he gets to that point where he's told, the gods tell him that he has risen so high with his spiritual ability. They say the only thing that's left for you to do is you have to go seek the blessing of, guess who? Vasishta, the guy who pisses him off. Stretch your legs out. Don't stretch your legs out. Bring your knees in towards your chest, please. Scoot your butt over to the left, drop your knees to the right, spinal twist. So of course, Visvamitra is mad as hell that he has to go ask the blessing of this guy, but he's also very determined, right? He's committed that he wants to be a sage, a greater sage than, anyone's ever been. And so he's like, fine, if I have to do it, I'll do it. And so he goes to Vashista's ashram to go ask his blessing. And as he's walking up, he hears Vashista having a conversation with his wife inside the hut. They can't see him. And his wife is asking Vashista, like, well, what are you going to do when he shows up? Are you going to give your blessing or what do you think? And Vashista says, of course, I'm going to give my blessing. Visvamitra has done incredible work. He's amazing. This whole time, I'm so impressed with what he's been able to accomplish. And he's an incredible being. Bring your knees back to center, please. Scoot your hips over to the right, drop your knees to the left. Right. So while you're busy being mad at someone, what might they be thinking? What's their experience of the same moment? But he hears this, Vishvamitra, and he has the sudden realization that he's like, my gosh, he's like, this whole time I've been so angry at this individual who only wants what's the best for me. I'm the one who's made this miserable. I'm the one who's made us enemies. And for what reason? And in that realization, he gets so upset with himself that they say he starts to bang his head against the ground or against a rock because he's so upset. And Vashista comes out and sees this and he's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Stop. Please stop. So they stop him from banging his head on the ground. And you can imagine, right, in that state where he just basically gave himself a concussion, that Visvamitra has another realization and he receives the Gayatri mantra. Come back to center, please. Hug your knees in towards your chest, forehead up to meet your knees. Hug yourself. Hug yourself like you are the most lovable being in the world. And then slowly release. Extend the legs out in front of you, arms out alongside you, palms up. Shavasana feels good when you've worked hard. Your life feels amazing when you show up committed to it. The Gayatri mantra, may I be inspired by the highest source of wisdom in me, so that my mind is a reflection of that. And with my mind reflecting that and my heart speaking only the voice of my soul, how can your life be anything except bliss? And the ego is the one that facilitates that conversation, stands in the doorway. So can you recognize the places where you still have arrows that need to be pulled out? And where maybe you've been banging your head against a wall or against a rock, asking the same question over and over when maybe the question doesn't matter. To let your mind go and put your attention on your heart and let that flame of your heart take over. Very gently bring the awareness back to your breath. Let your body begin to stretch and move in whatever ways serve it well. And as you're ready, draw your knees in towards your chest and roll to your right side. And take a moment there before you begin to push the floor away. Come back to an upright seated position. Bringing your hands to the heart center, palm to palm, or whatever mudra has been serving you well. And again, that image of the flame at your heart, the Jiva Atman, and the doorway to your bliss, and the ego that stands right there in that doorway. Its direct job is to be the day-to-day coordinator for the Jiva Atman, for the soul. You could say that your ego is the voice of the soul in a complicated sort of way. So when we come back to that understanding that the ego, this is where we are always, in understanding the relationship between the two. Now, the ego and the soul are one and the same. They are simply serving slightly different purposes in our experience. So let this be a year where you make no promises about how you're going to be, not living from the ego direction, but a year where you commit to listening to the voice of your heart and letting your ego become in line with that, so that you're committed to bringing all of you, every bit of you, into your life. Voice of your soul, heard by your mind. And if that's what we're living from, then what you experience, how could it be anything but bliss? So make friends with yourself this year. Close with the sound of Om. Deep breath in. Sliding the thumbs up to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste.
Thank you guys
Thank you,
so much.
Veronica.
Thank you, all of you guys here in the room with me who can laugh at my jokes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great rest of your day, you guys. Great rest of your week. Great rest of your year if I don't see you. Who knows?
Veronica, we're
If you're
laughing at
staying through,
home
what's
too.
that?
We're laughing at home too.
I know. I can say thank you for that.
Thank you.